Steve from Later Skater here. This is the first of two videos on how we produce our videos that we post on YouTube and on social media. This video is actually only about the audio, so we're going to talk about how we put together the mix that winds up going onto our videos. Here's how we do it. We started in 2021, and in the beginning we were just playing through traditional monitors and amps, and we were also recording our videos with Zoom cameras. So the quality was decent, it was functional, but it's also, you also get all kinds of room chatter. You have people having conversations, you have waiters, waitresses, you have beers hitting bar tops, knives and forks on plates if you're in a restaurant environment. So we wanted something cleaner. We moved to the Soundcraft UI24R. It's a digital interface. We usually call it our mixer, but it really is an interface. And what it does is it pulls in individual instrument and vocal tracks and lets us get a clean mix in our ears, as well as it lets us record to a USB drive and gives us those individual tracks to work with after the show. We have 4 transmitters. You can get more, but each transmitter relates to an individual mix that goes in the ears. We have a transmitter for our vocalists, so they share a mix. We have one for Paul, our bass player, one for me on drums, and then we have a house mix that the audience is hearing, and Jason, our guitar player, and the keeper of the interface of the mix, listens to that one. We wear belt packs, and we have in-ear monitors that go over our ears, and we also use Soundcraft's own interface that lets us control the mix. Now, when we started out, we used a different mixer, also by Soundcraft, and it did let you have individual mixes, but they all had to be controlled through one central place, which was an iPad, an older iPad that kept losing its connection. So Jason would have to modify the mix for all of us individually. We would say, I need more bass, I need less drums, and Jason would have to modify it, which is not a good situation to be in when you are performing and not a dedicated sound person. So we moved up to this mixer, and that lets us have those individual mixes that we control from our phone. So each of us can modify what we're hearing. You might see it on a video, but I try to cut it out. But if you ever come to see us live, you might see us, especially in the first part of the first set, making adjustments after we listen to a song or two. And what we're doing is modifying the mix so we can hear everything better. And then all of that becomes files that are on the computer. We're going to go into the folder, and it was a show at a venue called Prohibitions on August 16th. And this is the source file in Adobe Premiere. We'll talk about that in the second video, but right here there's a folder called Audio from Mixer. I always name it the same way. And we have this GarageBand file that we're going to work in here, and we have what was exported, which is a WAV file. WAV is uncompressed audio. MP3 is compressed. So because we're going to export to an audio file, pull that audio file into a video editor, we're going to export the video, and that's going to require a little bit of compression. And then when you upload to YouTube or any social media platform, it's going to add more compression. So we want to have the cleanest flow all the way through. And that's why it's a WAV. It's a big file. It's 2.63 gigs for 4 hours of recording, but it ensures quality. And then here is the GarageBand file. If you're not familiar with GarageBand, it's a package on the Mac, and what that means is it's actually kind of like, it looks like it's one file, but it's actually a secret folder. So you can see right here, we have all of our individual tracks. That's how they come in. They're 1.3 gigs each. We pulled them in the night of the show or the next day, pulled them into my computer, into an external hard drive, and I have a blank GarageBand template. When I open that up, it has everything here. It just doesn't have all of the actual audio tracks. So here's GarageBand. If you haven't seen it before, here's the interface. We have each instrument or vocal track down here. Horizontally, we're seeing the time. You can see we have 3 sets. Here's where we start. Here's a set break. Next set, set break, little chitter chatter here, and the final set. And then from here to here is where we stop playing, and that's where we stop recording. Anything you see in yellow is automation. Right now it's all volume. And the main thing I do, I will make little adjustments if one vocal part especially is a little quiet or loud. But the main thing I'll do at the end is to bring up the audience reaction so we can hear it here. Play Gangnam Style. This is important. I think it's good to think about the philosophy here. What we're doing is creating marketing material to get more people to shows and to get more venues to book you or private events. You want to keep the quality really high. So sometimes people have an objection to making modifications like this. If you do, I would say reconsider, think about what you're doing. You're not a photojournalist. You're not documenting a live event. You are creating marketing material to promote what you're doing. So let's take a look at the mix. So we have Paul on bass. We have Ryan's guitar. Ryan doesn't play every song, but he does play a bunch on acoustic, adding to Jason's guitar. And then we have Ryan's vocal, Danny's vocal. We have Steve EAD. The EAD is the Yamaha EAD that records really the full drum set. Previously, we used an overhead mic. It was a dynamic mic, and it captured the drum set pretty well, but it captured too much cymbals, not enough drums. So we moved to the EAD, which is a module that mounts on the hoop of the bass drum toward the drummer. It does a really good job of capturing the full set. You'll hear it. Still, though, we do add a kick mic so we can have a little bit more control. I'm always mixing for a phone. Most people watch our videos on the phone. They might watch it on a TV, a smart TV. They might watch it on their computer, their laptop, or whatever. But I'm aiming for the phone. By far, the most people who watch our videos watch it on mobile. And because of that, I'm EQing for a phone, which means the lower end is going to be louder, the bass drum sounds and the bass sound. Otherwise, it can sound too light and tinny. So we have the EAD 10, and we have my kick drum, and we have Jason on guitar. So let's hear this section of this song, which is hands down by Dashboard Confessional. We're going to hear the final mix.
My arms are so wide that your kiss might kill me. So won't you kill me? So I die happy. My heart is yours to fill or burst, to break or bury, or wear is jewelry, whichever you prefer. Hands down, this is the best thing I can ever remember. Always remember the sound of the stereo, then of the storm rises.
All right, there's a pretty good chunk of the song. So let's go individually, one track by one. We're going to start with Paul. This is a solo button. It means we're going to hear only the things that are soloed, which right now is just Paul. Let's isolate the bass. Nice track. You can see it's a really nice waveform because we're going toward the top, toward the max point, but we never hit it. If we did, it would be clipping, and that would sound horrible. We've done it, don't worry. So what you're hearing is Paul's bass track, but I have some effects checked on it. I'm going to turn those effects off, and then we'll talk about them. Not quite as nice sounding, huh? This is the raw track. This is what's recorded. We're going to go through. We're going to turn on each plugin one at a time. So here's the raw track. Now I'm going to turn on the compressor. What the compressor does is it makes the quieter parts sound closer to the loud parts. So it gives you a more consistent level. And that's why things don't get lost, like quieter parts of vocal performances or any instrument. And anything you've heard that's professionally recorded and mixed has almost certainly has some level of compression on it. It's a sheen that makes the final product sound polished. We also have EQ. We can look at those compressor settings. It's not a whole lot. We don't want to push it up all the way. We don't want Paul's more subtle bass notes to sound just like the loudest notes. And then we'll turn on the EQ. EQ is short for equalization. And what I'm trying to do here with all of the tracks is to give a boost to their more pleasant frequencies and to pull out the other frequencies that are not as prominent, not as needed, and that will interfere with the other instruments. All right, so Paul's getting a boost here in the low end and in the high end so we can hear some attack. And of course it's a bass, so we can hear some of that nice low end boost. And then there's a gain down here that I use just for a fine adjustment. It's a little easier sometimes when there's automation to just boost the gain up and down. So there's Paul's bass track. Now let's move on to Ryan's acoustic guitar. Now you'll see right over here we have some of the pan is pushed over to one side. Pan is left or right speaker. Most tracks are straight up the middle, which means you're hearing an equal amount of the audio in both ears. But because Ryan almost always plays guitar, when Jason's playing, I will push him to the left speaker or left earbud or headphone, whatever you're listening through. Here's Ryan's guitar final mix. Pretty, right? Nice. So let's turn off all 3 plugins. The raw recorded sound. Let's give him some compression back in there. More even sound. Here's his EQ. And reverb. No reverb. Because if we were to turn off all reverb and just have all this sound so pure, it would sound like we were lip syncing when combined with the video. It looks way too dry. We need it wet to some degree. We need some reverb in there, maybe even some delay. So there's Ryan. Now it's important to keep in mind we're not mixing to make that, even though that guitar sounded good. We're not mixing a classical guitar album. We're creating a mix of a whole band. So I'm not trying to make Ryan's guitar sound perfect on its own. I'm trying to make it sound good, sound clear, but also fit into the mix well. So let's move on to Jason's guitar. You can see we have a synth track here, but we didn't have a synth at this performance. We didn't have a synth song, so that's empty, but it's still in the template. Here's Jason's guitar. Oh, by the way, that at the beginning is my drums being picked up through his acoustic pickup. That's not Jason smashing his guitar. All right, started out with no plugins, very dry. Give him some reverb, give him that EQ and compressor. Now we got him pushed off to one side here.
Yeah.
Let's get Ryan back in there. Ooh, nice. Let's throw the bass in. Really hear the reverb in that pause. All right, we have the stringed instruments done. Let's move on to the drums. This is the EAD, capturing the whole kit. Let's listen to it in isolation, and then I'll look at the plugins. You can hear it's doing a good job of capturing the kick drum, but that's also because I boosted up the low ends. We could turn off our EQ. Not so nice now, is it? But we do have extra control with the kick drum mic, which is this. Yeah, it sounds pretty loud right here, but in the final mix, it sounds good. The whole kit. Let's get the bass in there with the drums. And the guitars. It's the instrumental version of the song. All right, we have the instruments down. Compression, EQ, and some level adjustments are the key. All right, let's listen to Ryan's isolated vocal, and we're going to turn the plugins off. And then I'll turn them on one by one. And you will hear a lot of drums in here because it's a smaller stage. The vocal mics were placed not far from the drums and aiming at the drums. Really no way to avoid it. It's not a huge deal. It's just a bit of a nuisance, but I've already mixed to compensate for it. So here is the raw vocal track.
My hopes are so high that your kiss might kill me. So won't you kill me?
Turn on compressor.
So I die happy.
That does make the drums louder because they're in the background. Let's get some EQ.
Jewelry, whichever you prefer. Hands down, this is the best date
And give some reverb.
Ever remember, always remember the sound.
Now remember what I said. There's some people that might object to this. You know, the reverb wasn't there in the original track. But the original track is not something anybody heard. What they heard is a sound going from a microphone through a cable into an interface and out through a PA and subwoofer into a space where reverb is happening. So we're making adjustments to make it sound live. Here's Danny's vocal. And we'll turn off her plugins as well.
My hopes are so high that your kiss might kill me. So won't you kill me? So I die happy.
Give her some compressor.
My ode is yours to fill or burst.
EQ.
To break or bury. Or wear its jewelry.
And reverb.
Whichever you prefer.
Both singers.
Down, this is the best day I can ever remember. Always remember the sound of the stereo, then of the soft lights, the scent of your hair as it.
Pretty neat, huh? Yeah, there's a lot of drums in there, but hey, there's going to be drums in the mix anyway. The very same drums. This wouldn't cut it if we were trying to isolate vocals and maybe replace the drum parts later, but obviously we're not doing that. So let's go through and let's turn everything on one instrument at a time. Bass. Let's turn on Jason's guitar. Get some Ryan in there. Drums. And Danny. And Ryan. Alright, hope you found that interesting now. So everything here gets exported. We would say share, export the song, export to a WAV file, and then that file gets brought into our video editor. And I actually modify the sound a little bit more there sometimes. And I'll sometimes add some of the real camera audio, which can do some things that are difficult, maybe impossible to achieve mixing just the audio tracks. So it's a very quick way to get some of the room sound in there. Sometimes I really want the crowd reaction during the song and not just at the end when they might be singing along. So hopefully you got something out of that. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for part 2.